Welcome to another IB Environmental Systems and Societies video. Today we're going to talk about criterion B of your ESS internal assessment called strategy. It's worth 4 points out of your 30-point total IA score. And by the end of this video, you should understand exactly what the IB expects from you in this section and how to put it together so that you earn all 4 marks. Let's get into it. First, let me show you how criterion B fits into the bigger picture of your IA. You can see here that the entire assessment has 6 criteria labeled A through F. A is your research question in your inquiry, worth 4 marks. Then comes B, which we're focusing on today. That's the strategy, again, worth 4 marks. Then after that, you have criterion C for your method, D for the treatment of data, E for the analysis and conclusion, and finally criterion F for evaluation. And all of those are worth 6 marks. Let's take a look at what criterion B actually asks you to do. You have to accomplish 3 main things. First, you need to explain the tensions between different perspectives. Those could be economic, social, cultural, political, or environmental perspectives. Second, you need to show how those tensions impact the outcomes of environmental strategies. And then third, you need to address your investigation's central issue. These 3 elements work together to create a complete strategy section. Now, here's something that's really important, and it catches a lot of students off guard. The IB says that the environmental issue or strategy that you discuss in this criterion B section can actually be different from the one that you're investigating in your experiment or your fieldwork. It sounds confusing at first, but it actually gives you quite a bit of flexibility. And this is a big however here. The issue has to have a clearly stated and credible connection to your research question. You can't just pick any random environmental strategy and then write about it. You have to explain how it relates to what you're studying. For example, if you're investigating water quality in a local stream, you might discuss government water treatment policies or community cleanup initiatives or agricultural runoff management strategies, because all of those are connected to water quality broadly, even if your actual investigation is something like measuring pH and dissolved oxygen levels in that local stream. Let's break down what you actually need to write about. Think of a strategy as a course of action that people could take or did take in response to an environmental problem or an issue. For example, if climate change is the issue, building more wind turbines might be a strategy to address it. The strategy is the solution that somebody's trying to implement. Next, you need to identify the different stakeholder perspectives. These are the people who are affected by the environmental issue and who might be affected by the strategy. You also have to address their environmental value systems. Remember those from topic 1? These are influenced by different economic, social, or cultural factors. The stakeholders don't all see the issue the same way. So then you need to explain these different perspectives and how those different perspectives create tensions around the issue. This isn't just listing what different groups want. You have to go deeper and you have to explain why their perspectives clash and what problems that clash creates. Finally, you have to show how these tensions affect the possible solutions. Often this means examining why a strategy didn't work as well as people had hoped, or why it got delayed, or why some groups resisted it. The tensions have to have real consequences, and you need to address that in this section. Let's look at some concrete examples of strategies. A strategy is something that people actually do to address the issues that you're investigating. This could be government policies like laws that regulate pollution or protect endangered species. It could be conservation programs like habitat restoration projects or species reintroduction efforts. Technological solutions count too. Think about innovations like electric vehicles or solar panels. Community initiatives are also considered strategies as well, like this beach cleanup that's happening in Ghana in this picture. Don't forget international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord or the Convention on Biological Diversity. The key is that strategies are actions, not just ideas. People or organizations are actually doing something to make a change. Here's a real example to help you understand how to describe a strategy. Let's say the issue is stratospheric ozone depletion. That's the hole in the ozone layer. A strategy that addressed this issue is the Montreal Protocol. When you describe your strategy, you want to answer several questions. What is it? It's the Montreal Protocol. It's an international agreement. Who's responsible for implementing it? National governments are implementing it around the world. Where does it happen? It happens primarily in industrial nations that were producing the harmful chemicals in the first place. And how does it address the issue? Well, the Montreal Protocol reduced the production of CFCs, the chlorofluorocarbons that were destroying the ozone layer. You see how that gives a more complete picture of the strategy? You're not just naming it, you're explaining how it actually works to solve the problem. Where do you find information about strategies and the tensions that surround them? Official government websites are excellent sources because they provide details about policies and regulations. Reports from NGOs like Greenpeace or the World Wildlife Fund can give you information about conservation efforts and environmental campaigns. News reports can help you understand current debates and conflicts around environmental issues. And academic and professional journals can provide research-based analysis of environmental strategies. One really important note here, whatever source you use, you need to consider the potential for bias. A government website might downplay problems with the policy. An environmental NGO might emphasize negative impacts to build support for their cause. A company might highlight benefits of their technology while minimizing some of the drawbacks. Always think critically about who created your source and what perspective they might bring to the issue. Before you start writing, you should plan your strategy section carefully. Here's what I recommend. Outline 3 courses of action that are taken in response to a specific environmental problem or issue. These could be strategies that were implemented in the past and are still ongoing, or they could be proposed strategies that haven't been fully implemented yet. Then, for each strategy, identify the different stakeholder perspectives. Remember, these are the people who were affected by the issue and whose environmental value systems are influenced by different economic, social, or cultural factors. Some stakeholders might support the strategy while others will oppose it, and their reasons matter. Next, you need to explain how these perspectives create tensions around that issue. Don't just list what different groups want. Dig into why their views clash and what their conflicts emerge from those differences. And then finally, you want to show how those tensions affect the strategy or other possible solutions. What happens when people disagree? Does the strategy get weakened? Does it get delayed? How does it get modified? Does it fail to achieve its goals? Right? Think about all of these questions and be very specific about the consequences. Don't use broad, vague terminology. Let's make sure we're clear on who stakeholders are. Stakeholders are people who have a stake in the issue. That means they have something to gain or something to lose depending on what happens. They're groups with different interests and different priorities. Why do different people and organizations have different values and therefore different priorities? Well, if you think about all the factors that shape how somebody sees the world, their wealth makes a difference. Somebody who's financially comfortable might view an environmental regulation differently than somebody who's worried about losing their job. Education affects perspectives too. So does somebody's career path. A logger and a conservation biologist will see forests very differently. Life experiences shape values, as do family structure, religion, and culture, and so does media consumption. All these factors influence somebody's environmental value system. Remember, all the way back in topic 1.1, we studied how people develop different environmental value systems based on their backgrounds and their experiences. This is where that concept becomes really important in your internal assessment. Let's take a look at some concrete examples of stakeholders. Imagine the issue is Amazon deforestation. Who are the stakeholders? Well, you have logging companies who want to harvest timber for a profit. You have indigenous communities who are trying to protect their ancestral lands and their traditional ways of life. You have government officials who might be balancing economic development priorities with environmental protection. And you have environmental organizations and local residents who might be concerned about biodiversity loss and climate change. You see how each of these groups has different interests? The logging company cares about profit and jobs. The indigenous community cares about cultural survival and land rights. Government officials care about tax revenue and political support. And the environmental organizations care about ecosystem protection. All these different priorities are going to create tensions. This image really captures how dramatically perspectives can differ on the same environmental issue. Both photos are from political rallies where climate change and coal are being discussed. On the left, the protesters are holding signs calling someone a climate criminal, clearly opposing coal use because of its environmental impacts. But on the right, you have supporters who are holding Trump digs coal signs, and they're supporting coal because they value the jobs that it provides and they question climate science. It's the same issue, coal and climate change, completely opposite perspectives. Both groups believe they're right. Both have reasons for their position. And this is exactly the kind of tension you need to explore in your IA. So what exactly are tensions in the context of environmental strategies? Tensions are conflicting stakeholder goals and needs. They're complex disagreements where there isn't an easy compromise. They represent fundamental differences in how people see the world and what they value. Look at this image. On one side, you see renewable energy, wind turbines and solar panels, and that represents a clean energy future. On the other side, you see fossil fuel infrastructure and pollution, representing traditional energy systems. The tension exists because transitioning from fossil fuels to renewables involves huge economic changes, job losses in some sectors and job creation in others. It involves infrastructure investments and changes in energy costs. Different stakeholders care about different aspects of this transition, and their priorities often conflict. Let me walk you through a detailed example of this using hydroelectric dams. We're going to look at the same strategy from multiple stakeholder perspectives so that you can see how the tensions develop. From a climate perspective, somebody might be in favor of building a hydroelectric dam. Why? Well, it generates clean energy without burning fossil fuels. Hydroelectric power doesn't produce greenhouse gases while it's operating, so it helps to address climate change. And if you care most about reducing carbon emissions, a dam looks like a great solution. But here's another perspective. Local communities whose livelihoods depend on the river might be against the dam. Why? Because it disrupts their way of life. Maybe they're fishers who depend on fish populations that migrate up and down the river. The dam blocks that fish migration and it destroys the fishing industry. Maybe they farm in areas that are going to be flooded by the reservoir that's behind the dam, and then that means they're going to lose their agricultural land. The dam solves one problem, energy production without fossil fuels, but it creates another problem by disrupting those community livelihoods. Here's yet another perspective that favors the dam. Rural communities without electricity might support it because it brings new economic opportunities. The dam construction creates jobs. Rural electrification means that businesses can operate more easily. People get access to refrigeration, communication technology, and modern conveniences. If your community has been without reliable electricity, a hydroelectric project might seem like the key to economic development and an improved quality of life. But archaeologists and indigenous groups might oppose the same dam because it leads to the loss of cultural sites. When you flood a valley to create a reservoir, you flood everything in that valley, including ancient rock art, like what you see in this picture. You flood burial sites, sacred locations, and archaeological sites that tell the history of the region. These cultural resources are irreplaceable. Once they're underwater, they're gone forever. If you value cultural heritage and historical preservation, the dam represents an unacceptable loss. And ecologists might oppose the dam because of negative ecological impacts. Dams change river ecosystems pretty dramatically. They alter the water temperature and the oxygen levels. They trap sediment that would normally flow downstream, and that affects the delta ecosystems. They block fish migration, they harm populations of species like salmon. The reservoir can flood terrestrial habitats. So if you look at this image of a debris that's collecting behind a dam, it shows how dams accumulate pollution and they change the natural river process. So the same strategy, building a hydroelectric dam, looks completely different depending on your perspective and what you value most. The IB specifically wants you to consider 5 types of perspectives when you analyze tensions. Economic perspectives focus on money, jobs, and costs. Who gains financially? Who loses income? What does the strategy cost to implement? Social perspectives address health, community well-being, and quality of life. How does a strategy affect people's daily lives and social structures? Cultural perspectives involve traditions, values, and heritage. Does the strategy threaten or support cultural practices and identity? Political perspectives will deal with policies, power, and governance. Who's got the authority to make decisions? How do political systems shape the strategy? And then, of course, environmental perspectives focus on ecosystems, biodiversity, and pollution. What are the ecological consequences? Most environmental issues involve multiple perspectives. A good strategy section will explore several of these angles to show the complexity of the real world environmental problems that you're investigating. Here's the difference between weak and strong tension analysis. A weak approach just lists the different viewpoints. You might write something like farmers want to use pesticides, but environmentalists want to ban them. That states 2 positions, but it doesn't explain the tension. A strong approach explains why the differences matter. It explores underlying conflicts and their consequences. It shows the real problems that arise from these tensions. For example, farmers argue that pesticide bans would make agriculture economically unviable in regions with high pest pressure, and that would force small farms out of business and threaten food security. Environmental organizations counter that pesticide use damages pollinator populations, which ultimately threatens the agricultural productivity and ecosystem health. This fundamental disagreement about how to balance immediate economic needs with long-term environmental sustainability has prevented effective regulation. You see the difference there? The strong approach explains the deeper conflict and the consequences. Here's another concrete example of what consequences look like. Tensions can lead to stalled regulation. When stakeholders disagree so strongly that governments can't pass laws or policies. They create situations where you have to choose between economic loss and ecological damage. You can't fully satisfy both priorities. And often, environmental issues remain unresolved because the tensions are so strong that no solution satisfies enough stakeholders to move forward. These are the kind of consequences you want to discuss in your IA. Don't just describe the tension, explain what happens because of it. Tensions can affect strategies in several specific ways. They can delay the implementation through prolonged negotiations between stakeholders that are trying to reach an agreement. They can weaken the effectiveness through compromises where the final strategy is so watered down that it doesn't really address the problem. Tensions can create resistance from stakeholders who actively oppose or sabotage strategies that they disagree with, or who didn't get something included that they really valued. They cause unequal distribution of benefits, where some groups can gain while other groups lose, and that leads to questions around environmental justice. But sometimes, and this is worth noting, sometimes tensions can actually inspire alternative solutions as people search for approaches that better address multiple stakeholder concerns. When you write about how tensions affect strategies, be specific about which of these impacts you're seeing in your example. I want to emphasize again the importance of proper research and documentation. Use official government websites, reports from NGOs, news articles, and academic journals to find information about your strategy and the stakeholders that are involved. Always consider the potential bias in your sources. Think about who created the information and why they did it. And here's something else that's really important. Document everything. Use in-text references throughout your strategy section. Actually, you should be using in-text references throughout every section of your internal assessment, but today we're specifically talking about strategy. Include a properly formatted works cited page at the end of your IA. Follow whatever citation format your teacher requires. Most ESS teachers accept MLA or APA, but your school will specify exactly what you need. Every fact that you present, every statistic that you mention, every stakeholder position that you describe needs to come from a reliable source, and you need to cite that source. The IB takes academic honesty very seriously, and proper citation protects you while giving credit to the people whose research you're using. If you don't do it right, it will significantly impact your IA. So that covers the essentials of Criterion B strategy. Remember, you're explaining tensions between different perspectives. You're showing how those tensions impact the outcomes, and you're addressing your investigation's central issue. You want to choose a strategy that genuinely connects to your research question. You need to identify stakeholders with different environmental value systems and explain the tensions that those different perspectives create. Then you should analyze how those tensions affect the strategy's success or its failure. Take time to research and plan this section thoroughly before you write anything. Good luck with your internal assessment, and until next time, happy learning.